The reality TV industry is suffering from an unexpected scandal, and this time it's personal. Kirk Frost, who has long been renowned for his wild behavior on Love and Hip Hop, appears to have passed a threshold that has surprised even his closest associates. According to shocking new reports, Kirk lost total control on set after viewing a secret, never-before-seen film involving none other than his wife, Rasheeda, and fellow cast member YungJoc. Yes, you heard that correctly. A private video so powerful and unexpected that it caused an emotional breakdown in front of the whole production crew. According to show sources, Kirk was calm 1 second and then stormed across the set, ranting, accusing, and attacking everyone in sight. What about the claimed video? It has been described as intimate, inappropriate, and a betrayal captured on camera. What was actually in the video? Why was Kirk the last to know? And more importantly, was Rasheeda hiding anything all along? Fans are astonished. The cast is divided. Behind the scenes, tempers are burning as never before. This is not simply a battle. It's a revelation that reveals the heart of a reality TV enterprise. And believe us, this is only the beginning. It all began with murmurs on set, the sort of murmurs that get more audible with each passing day until they can't be ignored. Kirk Frost had been abnormally silent for weeks, seldom making eye contact with anybody, notably Rasheeda or YungJoc. Something was odd. Everybody felt it. The tension was thick enough to be sliced with A. During shooting, crew members exchanged uneasy glances, and cast members walked gingerly around Kirk, wondering what version of him they'd see that day. The truth ultimately came out on a Tuesday afternoon during what was intended to be a typical filming session. Kirk strolled in late, his eyes heavy with the storm that had plainly begun long before he arrived onto stage. He wasn't talking. He was not kidding. He was just watching, his gaze fixed on Rasheeda from across the room, and she knew something was wrong. However, she had no idea what would happen next. According to speculations, Kirk was handed a flash drive 2 nights prior. Nobody knows who handed it to him. Some claim it was a former crew member who was fired a few weeks ago. Others say it was slid under his dressing room door. What's important is what was on it. A video file named Simply Play Me. Kirk did, and what he witnessed apparently pushed him into an emotional tailspin. According to sources, the video showed Rasheeda and YungJoc in a hotel room. The film was not professionally shot, but rather wobbly and raw, as if taken with a phone camera. While it was not explicitly stated in the usual sense, it was sufficient to erode confidence. The two were laughing, drinking, and sitting far too close. Jock had his hand on her leg. They spoke as if no one was looking. Perhaps no one was, but now Kirk had seen it, over and over, and it was all he could think of. Kirk burst while on set. The cameras were rolling. The sound crew recorded every phrase. Kirk pushed a chair against the wall and said, "So this is what you've been doing behind my back?" Rasheeda froze. Jock went up to attempt to settle things down, but Kirk didn't listen. "Don't walk up on me," Kirk cautioned, his eyes blazing with rage. Jock was taken off surprise and hesitated. "Kirk, man, you've got it all wrong," he attempted, but Kirk interrupted him. "Nah, I saw it. Both of you, I'm laughing my head off. Drink like you have nothing to hide. Her legs are all over you, like it's a date night." Kirk's voice cracked. It wasn't just rage, it was sadness, betrayal, confusion. Everyone watching could sense it. Rasheeda's voice cracked as she approached him. "You don't know the whole story, Kirk," she remarked gently. "That video isn't what it seems." But Kirk wasn't having it. "Then tell me what it is, 'cause it appears you forgot you were married from where I'm standing." Producers rushed to intervene, begging the cameras to cut, but Kirk surged past them. "No, don't cut anything. Allow the world to see this. Let them witness what happens when you trust the wrong people." The team was astonished. The room was quiet save for Kirk's heavy breathing. The vibe shifted completely. It was no longer merely a battle. It was a breakdown. Rasheeda stood there, quiet tears falling. Jock, uneasy and plainly frightened, glanced down, avoiding eye contact with everyone. What made matters worse was the response on social media. Someone on site released a hazy still shot from the claimed video, just enough to spark curiosity. Fans were in a frenzy. The timelines were inundated with hashtags like #Rasheeda betrayal and #Jock and Rasheeda exposed. People were taking sides before understanding the whole picture, and that simply added fuel to Kirk's already blazing anger. Later that evening, in a quiet green room, Kirk sat alone, slouched on the couch with his head in his hands. A producer discreetly entered, attempting to obtain a statement. Kirk glanced up with angry eyes and murmured, "How long do you think she's been lying to me?" The inquiry was not addressed at anyone. Perhaps the question was not intended to be answered. It simply lingered in the air. Meanwhile, Rasheeda remained outside in her car, reluctant to go until she knew precisely what Kirk had witnessed. "If he saw something, let me see it too," she shouted at a staff member. However, no one had the drive. Kirk had not showed it to anybody else. The only proof was what he described, and the photograph that is already circulating online. YungJoc attempted damage control. He drew aside a producer and maintained that nothing had occurred. "Man, that night was right after a club appearance. We were all staying in the same hotel. She stopped by for around 5 minutes. We chatted. That's it." But no one was really listening. The image leaked, and perception became reality. Their view was not favorable. Mendeecees, who had remained on the sidelines up until this moment, couldn't keep quiet any longer. During a confessional shot, he looked directly at the camera and stated, "Kirk has gone through a lot, but is this correct here? I cannot blame him for snapping. If I saw my wife all comfortable with another man, even if it was harmless, I'd lose my mind." His statements confirmed what many fans were already thinking. Chaos broke out in the show's private group conversation. Some cast members agreed with Rasheeda, claiming Kirk was overreacting. Others defended Kirk, claiming he had every right to feel deceived. Even Mimi jumped in, tweeting, "You all need to calm. Remember that cameras do not always reveal the whole truth. We've all been edited badly." But Kirk wasn't thinking about editing. He was thinking about trust, about loyalty, about the years he'd invested in his marriage, only to be surprised by a few minutes of grainy tape. He hadn't even faced Rasheeda in private yet. It all occurred in public, in front of cameras, friends, and strangers. He didn't know how to take any of it back. Just as the set was winding down, someone suggested that Rasheeda hadn't gone home the night before. Kirk's head jerked upward. Where did she go then? Nobody had an answer, but the inference was apparent. The room became silent again. Kirk jumped up, grabbed his jacket, and walked out without speaking. Outside, the cameras kept rolling, and this is when the actual narrative begins. Kirk rushed off the stage, leaving the crew in disbelief. Nobody moved. Nobody knew what to do. Rasheeda, still sitting in her car outside, attempted to collect her thoughts. Her thoughts rushed over everything. Every time with Kirk, every encounter with Jock, and now the unexpected pandemonium. Was it truly just a misunderstanding? Could it be salvaged? But no matter how hard she tried to tell herself that things weren't as horrible as they appeared, the truth struck her like a ton of bricks. Kirk had seen that video, and once something was out in the open, could it ever truly be forgotten? Back inside, the rest of the cast and crew started discussing amongst themselves. Whispers became louder, and rumors spread like wildfire. Did Kirk truly believe they were, together? One crew member asked anxiously, looking around, "Is there anything we didn't know about?" Another person reacted, evidently uncomfortable with the tension in the air. At this point, there was no denying it. Whatever the truth was about the video, Kirk was in no condition to speak, so the producers convened an emergency meeting. But who would take the lead in damage control? Rasheeda? Jock? Or was it up to Kirk to take responsibility for his actions? Rasheeda finally had the strength to contact Kirk. Her hands trembled when she dialed the number. It rang and rang. Kirk eventually spoke out, his voice scratchy and strained. "Kirk, listen to me," Rasheeda said, her voice breaking. "I never intended to hurt you. That night, Don't tell me about that night, Rasheeda." Kirk's voice was barely above a whisper, but the rage was evident. "Do you want to tell me that nothing happened? You want to tell me I'm insane for believing anything was wrong? I witnessed it with my own eyes. Do not behave as if I am the fool here." Rasheeda took a long breath, attempting to calm herself. "I was not hiding anything, Kirk. You must comprehend. Understand? Understand that I married you. I devoted my everything to this relationship, and you go behind my back, cozying up to my friend. What was I supposed to think? That's the part you don't understand. You simply want to brush it off like nothing." The line went dead. Rasheeda dropped into her seat and stared out the window, her pulse beating. The hush following the phone call was deafening. Kirk's mind was clearly made up. The trust between them had been broken. But how could she even begin to describe the issue to him now? How could she persuade him that it wasn't what it seemed? Back on site, things were getting out of control. The producer summoned an emergency meeting, but it was unclear who would take the lead. Was Kirk going to admit to his explosion? Or would Rasheeda have to present her own version of events? Whatever occurred, one thing was certain. This wasn't just about the video anymore. It was about a marriage on the verge of breaking apart, and no one understood how to put it back together. Meanwhile, Jock did his best to escape the media frenzy. He knew he had to be careful. One false move could be the end of his career. Despite his best attempts to remain silent, rumors and allegations persisted. Fans began taking sides, with some defending Jock and others accusing him of abandoning Kirk in the worst conceivable way. What about Jock? He only desired to escape the craziness. But how could he, with the entire world watching and waiting for him to make a mistake? Then came the call that changed everything. Mendeecees, Kirk's close buddy, had finally spoken up on the subject. He'd watched the video too, but what surprised everyone was the message he conveyed to Kirk. "Yo, Kirk, man up," Mendeecees texted. "I realize this situation is terrible, but you can't keep escaping from it. You need to talk to her. She's your wife, and Jock. I've known him long enough to know he wouldn't cross that line." Kirk's emotions were still high, but Mendeecees' comments hit him unexpectedly. Perhaps he wasn't seeing the full picture. Perhaps he had passed judgment too quickly. But with his pride on the line, could he truly go back and accept his mistake? The fact was that Kirk didn't know. But he did know this. His life, marriage, and reputation were all dangling by a thread. And with each passing second, that thread became thinner. The producers saw that the issue had reached a boiling point. If they don't move quickly, the program may collapse under the weight of the controversy. But how could they proceed while the stars themselves were in such disarray? Meanwhile, Rasheeda and Jock had kept their distance from each other, not because they didn't care, but because they knew how devastating their relationship might be to both of them. Neither of them wanted to stir the flames. However, the media did not offer them an option. Headlines began to appear on every gossip website. Rasheeda was caught on tape with YungJoc in a compromising situation. One yelled. Another questioned whether Kirk Frost's outburst had anything to do with Rasheeda's infidelity. And the comments section, it was a war zone. Fans on both sides went in deep, blaming, defending, and pointing fingers at one another. Not only was the show at risk, but so were their professions, futures, and whole lives. Back at the production studio, the mood was tight. Everyone knew the next step was crucial, but no one had the fortitude to do it. The lines had been drawn, and the harm had occurred. The real question was, could anything be done about it now? Kirk's explosion had put things in motion, but it was far from done. It barely just begun. As the day progressed, the producers attempted to put together a strategy. They understood that bringing Kirk and Rasheeda together for a private chat was essential, but could they recover anything from the ruins of their shattered relationship? And what about Jock? Will the cast ever accept him again? Or is he now considered persona non grata? But the most important issue remained unanswered. Who was the true victim here? Was Kirk deceived by the lady he loved? Or was it Rasheeda who was misunderstood and blamed for something that may not have ever occurred? It was now a waiting game, with no one knowing what would happen next. The drama was only getting started. and the ramifications from this huge story was set to ripple across the whole program. No one was prepared for what happened next. As the days passed, the ramifications from Kirk's dramatic outburst grew out of control. The media was persistent, and the steady stream of rumors and stories kept everyone on edge. But it wasn't only Kirk and Rasheeda who were impacted. Everyone felt the heat. Rasheeda, alone at home, sat on the couch going through her phone. It seemed like the entire universe was against her. The comments under the videos and photographs rushed in, expressing astonishment, judgment, and incredulity. How could she do this to Kirk? One admirer said, "I knew she was hiding something." Added another, "It was as if her entire existence had been reduced to a few seconds of video, a moment that had been exaggerated greatly." But what truly upset her was the steady stream of communications from individuals who assumed they understood everything, fans who had not taken the time to grasp what was going on. Everyone rushed to criticize her, but they didn't know the complete tale, and it was the most difficult part. They had no idea what she had been going through, what she had attempted to hide, or why things had turned out the way they did. Meanwhile, Kirk was experiencing his own emotional tempest. At first, he was seized with rage, believing that what he saw on that film was genuine. However, after receiving Mendeecees' message, he began to question himself. Could it be that he jumped to conclusions too soon? Was it truly all a misunderstanding? Late one night, Kirk was alone in his studio, reliving the movie in his head. He couldn't get it out of his mind. He kept picturing how Jock and Rasheeda communicated. He was upset by the implications rather than the movie itself. She stared at him, and they both chuckled together. Could it be that they were keeping something from him? Or was he simply being paranoid? He took up the phone and called Mendeecees again. It rang for a few seconds before he answered. "Yo, Kirk, what's up?" Mendeecees' voice came through the phone, calm and consistent. "Man, I don't know what to do," Kirk said, his voice full of frustration. "I'm losing my head about this whole situation. I'm not sure what is real anymore." "Look, Kirk," Mendeecees said slowly, "you must calm down. I understand how difficult this is, but the first step is to speak with Rasheeda. Hit your facts straight before making any more charges. You can't solve this until you know what you're fixing." Kirk breathed sharply. "I know you're right, but it's hard, man. I feel betrayed, as if everyone has been lying to me. I'm simply not sure whether I can trust her anymore." "Trust is everything, dude," Mendeecees declared. "But if you don't speak with her, you'll never find the answers you want. Remember that it is no longer just about you two. It is important to consider what is best for your family. You have to make this right, Kirk." The weight of Mendeecees' words hung in the air, and for the first time in days, Kirk felt a ray of optimism. Perhaps he could work things out with Rasheeda. Maybe there was yet a chance to save all they had. But that did not imply that it would be simple. The next morning, Kirk took a deep breath and resolved to confront the storm straight on. He phoned Rasheeda, his fingers shaking as he pressed the dial button. When she responded, he could sense hesitancy in her voice, but she did not hang up. "Rasheeda, I need to talk to you," Kirk began, his tone quieter than before. "We need to clear the air. All of this has gone too far, and I'd like to know the truth." There was a long gap at the other end of the telephone before Rasheeda spoke. "I've been trying to get through to you, Kirk," she whispered gently. "I never wanted this to happen. None of it. But you keep pushing me away, and I have no idea what you expect me to do." "I didn't know what to think," Kirk said, his voice faltering. "But I want to understand. I need you to describe what happened. What is going on between you and Jock? Was there something happening behind my back?" Rasheeda's breath hitched, and Kirk wasn't sure how she was going to answer. But then she spoke, her tone laced with melancholy. "Kirk, I vow to you that nothing was going on between me and Jock. That video isn't what it seems. I was simply being friendly. You must trust me." Kirk closed his eyes, his thoughts swirling from the complexity and anguish of what had occurred. Could he trust her? Could he believe what she was saying? "I want to believe you, Rasheeda," Kirk murmured quietly, "but you need to offer me something. Tell me the truth. and maybe we can work things out. But if there's something you're hiding, I need to know." After another lengthy silence, Rasheeda spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "Kirk, I am not concealing anything, but we have to stop allowing the outside world to dominate our lives. We have allowed this drama to consume us for far too long, and it is driving us apart." Kirk took a big breath. He knew she was correct, but was it too late to repair things? Meanwhile, Jock felt the heat as well. He had attempted to avoid the spotlight, but the continual media attention became overwhelming. Fans were abusing him online, accusing him of abandoning Kirk, and his career was at stake. The whispers did not cease. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't escape the rumors. In a fit of frustration, Jock contacted his manager. "I can't keep doing this," Jock said, his voice tinted with tiredness. "This is ruining everything. I didn't ask for any of this, but now I'm trapped in the thick of it." His manager attempted to calm him down. "I understand it, Jock. However, you must be discreet for the time being. Allow this to blow over. We'll work on damage control, but you need to keep out of the limelight for a while." Jock did not want to hear it. "How am I meant to be quiet while everyone is watching me? It's not just Kirk's reputation on the line, it's also mine." Despite his indignation, Jock realized he had no option. The media circus would not end, and if he did not handle it wisely, he risked losing everything. Back in the studio, Kirk and Rasheeda's talk was far from ended. They were both on edge, but they knew they had to make a choice. Was their romance worth saving? Could they leave the past behind, or was this the end of the road? And what about Jock? Will he remain in the background, or will his involvement exacerbate the situation for everyone? As Kirk and Rasheeda continued to chat, the future of their marriage hung in the balance. Will they find a way to set things right, or is this the start of the end? As time passed, the hostility between Kirk and Rasheeda grew. The media frenzy showed no signs of easing, and each new headline exacerbated the situation. The incessant rumors and allegations had taken a toll on both of them, and it was obvious that something had to give. But neither was eager to surrender without a struggle. Kirk, still suffering from the shock of the video, attempted to concentrate on what was best for his family. But every time he read a fresh news about the video or heard people criticize Rasheeda, his wrath flared up again. He couldn't help it. It was like a fire he couldn't extinguish. Kirk rushed out of the house one evening, following a particularly violent dispute with Rasheeda. He needed distance to clear his mind. His mind raced with emotions as he drove aimlessly across the metropolis. The more he reflected on what had transpired, the more he understood how deeply he had been affected by the entire event. But the video wasn't the only thing bothering him. He and Rasheeda had unsolved difficulties for years. The moments of neglect when they drifted away and neglected one another's needs. All of that had accumulated, and now it was all coming out. Meanwhile, Rasheeda sat alone in her house, her phone quiet beside her. She tried contacting Kirk numerous times, but he didn't respond. The quiet between them was deepening. The debates and accusations were getting too much. She had worked so hard to make things work, but now she wasn't sure whether it was still worth it. But just when Rasheeda was ready to give up, her phone vibrated. The message came from an unknown number. She paused before unlocking it, wondering who would be contacting her at this time. When she finally opened the message, her heart skipped a beat. It was a video with the headline, "Rasheeda's Secret Deal Exposed." Rasheeda shook her hands and clicked on the video. What she witnessed shook her to the core. It was a videotape of her meeting with a representative from another network to negotiate her prospective appearance on a new reality program. The film was blurry, but the words were perfectly clear. "Rasheeda, we can offer you more money and more screen time. You deserve to be in the spotlight. We can make you the star you've always wanted to be," the producer's voice says in the video. Rasheeda's heart sunk as she realized what this meant. Kirk had no idea she was having this meeting. She was considering her alternatives since she had always worried if her time on the program was coming to an end. The drama, the battling, and the continual strain were all too much. However, After watching this video, she realized that her faith in Kirk had been broken. Tears welled up in her eyes as she sat there gazing at the TV. She'd always tried to be open with Kirk, but suddenly everything was coming apart. The secret transaction she was negotiating had been uncovered, and Kirk would soon find out. Her heart ached as she realized that her desire to take control of her own destiny could have lost her the person she cared the most about. Meanwhile, Kirk, who was still driving aimlessly, had a shock of his own. His phone rang, and when he saw the caller ID, he nearly didn't answer. It was Mendeecees again, the last person he wanted to speak with right now, but he felt he needed to respond. Maybe Mendeecees offered some guidance, maybe not. Either way, he needed to speak with someone. "Yo, Kirk, what's up?" Mendeecees said, seeming more anxious than usual. "I'm losing it, man," Kirk said, his voice low and frustrated. "This whole thing with Rasheeda is tearing me apart. And now I'm seeing things online that I'm not sure what to trust." Mendeecees remained silent for a time before speaking, his tone calm yet forceful. "Kirk, you need to stop letting these rumors rule you. You need to talk to Rasheeda. Running away from a problem will not solve it. I'm not sure if I can trust her anymore." "Mendeecees," Kirk said, his voice shaking. "She's been keeping stuff from me, and I'm not sure where it all went wrong." "I understand, dude," Mendeecees remarked, his tone softening. "But you should stop blaming her for everything. You are both in this together. Whatever occurs, you need to sort it out." Kirk did not respond straight away. His ideas were disorganized, but Mendeecees' words had struck home. He realized he couldn't keep avoiding the reality. He had to confront it, no matter how terrible it was. Rasheeda remained awake when he returned home later that night. She sat in the living room, her phone in her hand, seemingly lost in contemplation. Kirk remained in the doorway for a minute, observing her. Everything had clearly had an impact on both of them, but neither was willing to give up just yet. Rasheeda finally glanced up and saw him standing there. "Kirk, we need to talk," she stated calmly, breaking the silence between them. Kirk nodded and came over to sit beside her. "I understand, Rasheeda. I have been thinking a lot." Rasheeda took a big breath. "I did not want for things to become this terrible. I never intended to hurt you." Kirk stared at her, his eyes filled with perplexity and sadness. "But you have been withholding stuff from me. There is so much that you have not told me." "I did not want to tell you, Kirk. I didn't want to add fuel to the fire," Rasheeda acknowledged, her voice quivering. "But I was looking for a way out, a means for me to shape my own future. This reality TV world is taxing. I had to consider what was best for myself." Kirk gazed at her as the words sank in. Rasheeda quitting the program, their separation was a reality he had not anticipated. "So you were considering leaving?" he inquired, his voice barely above a whisper. Rasheeda nodded, her eyes filling with sorrow. "I'm not sure what else to do, Kirk. I can't keep pretending things are fine when they aren't. But I never intended it to be this way." The weight of her words struck him like a ton of bricks. Was their marriage genuinely at its breaking point? Or was this simply another obstacle they could overcome? While they remained there, unaware of what the future contained, the media tempest outside raged on. In that instant, they both recognized that their lives and their relationship would never be the same again. The stillness between Kirk and Rasheeda was suffocating. Neither of them understood how to proceed, how to fix what had been damaged, or how to deal with the fallout from the insanity that had devoured their lives. Every day brought a new headline, a new controversy, and yet here they were, sitting at home, attempting to stitch together what remained of their marriage. Kirk's thoughts raced. He had always been a proud guy who battled for what he believed in, but suddenly the lady he loved, with whom he had created his life, was sliding away from him. It ached more than he had thought, but he also realized he wasn't the only one to blame. Rasheeda had her secrets and decisions, and the video that started this tempest was only the top of the iceberg. Rasheeda, on the other hand, felt a strong pang in her heart as she gazed at Kirk. She had always tried to prioritize their family, but it now appeared like everything she did, every decision she made, had just made matters worse. The concept of leaving the program and taking control of her own destiny seemed so vital and proper in the moment. But she wasn't sure if it had been worth the money. The guilt weighed hard on her, knowing that the secret she had held from Kirk had brought them here, to the brink of disaster. But what option did she have? The incessant strain of reality TV, public scrutiny, and never-ending drama had suffocated her. She had always been strong, playing the role of the ideal wife and mother. But deep inside, she felt lost, as if her genuine personality was being obliterated. The contract with the other network appeared to be an escape route, a means for her to restore her freedom. But now that Kirk was seated in front of her, she was unsure if she had made the correct decision. "I never meant for this to happen," Rasheeda said quietly, her voice shaking as she wiped a tear from her face. "I just wanted more. Something for me." Kirk remained silent for quite some time. He sat there, his gaze fixed on hers, attempting to understand what had transpired. His mind raced, but one thing was certain: he still loved her. Despite everything, despite the agony, betrayal, and lies, he could not let go of the lady he had been with for so long. "I know you didn't mean for any of this," Kirk eventually murmured, his voice soft but full of passion. "But Rasheeda, you aren't the only one who is hurting here. You aren't the only one who has been lost. I've been battling with my own issues and disappointments, but none of this justifies what occurred. I should not have reacted like I did." Rasheeda glanced down, her hands quivering in her lap. "I'm not even sure who I am anymore, Kirk. I'm not sure if I'm the lady you fell in love with or someone I don't recognize." Kirk's heart sank as he heard her words. The lady sitting in front of him, who had always been so powerful and confident, was suddenly shattered and uncertain of herself. He wanted to reach out, embrace her, and remind her of who she was, but he wasn't sure he had the authority anymore. The video, the treachery, everything had broken their relationship. But could they fix it? A knock on the door interrupted their talk. They both glanced up, shocked. Kirk sprang up to answer it, uncertain who might be visiting them at this late hour. When he opened the door, he was greeted by a familiar face: Mendeecees. Mendeecees entered without waiting for an invitation, his countenance stern. He'd been keeping an eye on the situation and hearing about all that had been going on, and he knew he couldn't remain on the sidelines any longer. "What's going on, Kirk? I've been hearing a lot of things," Mendeecees continued, his tone more direct than normal. Kirk groaned and ran a hand over his hair. "You understand what's going on? Everything is coming apart, including the Rasheeda situation and the video." Mendeecees looked over at Rasheeda, who was sitting quietly on the couch with her eyes downcast. "Rasheeda, are you okay?" he inquired, his tone gentler than it had been with Kirk. "I understand things have been stressful, but you can't let this ruin you. You have to fight for what you have." Rasheeda returned Mendeecees' look, a small grin tugging on her lips. "I don't know whether I can fight anymore. I've been struggling for a long time, Mendeecees, but I'm not sure if I've been battling for the correct reasons." Mendeecees crossed his arms and looked at the two of them. "Look, I understand. You're both hurting. But you have a choice here. You may let this break you apart, or you can fight to make things right. But that requires both of you. You cannot do it alone." Kirk and Rasheeda exchanged glances. Both of them were fatigued from the continual drama and the stress of living in the spotlight, but they also knew Mendeecees was correct. They wouldn't have a chance until they faced this together. Kirk resumed his seat next to Rasheeda as Mendeecees exited the room. The weight of everything remained in the air, but for the first time in a long time, they both felt a glimmer of optimism. "Maybe we can fix this," Kirk whispered softly, holding Rasheeda's hand in his. "Maybe we should just start afresh. Take one step at a time." Rasheeda nodded, her eyes full with hope and uncertainty. "I'm not sure whether we can, Kirk, but I am prepared to try. For us, for our family." They sat there in quiet, the choice weighing heavily on their shoulders. The media, the drama, the scandals will continue. But for the first time, they were not going to let them rule their lives. They needed to find a way to rebuild, reconnect, and tackle the problems ahead of them together. Outside their home, rumors would continue to circulate, headlines would be published, and the world would watch. But within, Kirk and Rasheeda had forged a quiet agreement. They were prepared to battle for their marriage. They were going to battle for one another, and that was ultimately all that mattered. As the days passed, they both realized they had a long journey ahead of them. But with each stride, they were gradually making their way back to each other. And no matter what occurred or how tough the trip, they were prepared to face it as a family. As the dust settles on the drama between Kirk and Rasheeda, the question remains, can they mend their broken relationship? Is the harm too deep to repair? The world is watching, and the next step might alter everything. What do you think? Was Kirk correct in his reaction, or were Rasheeda's actions justified? Will their marriage survive, or is it beyond repair? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Did Kirk and Rasheeda make the right decision? Will they reconcile, or is this the end of their relationship? Make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any updates on this continuing drama. The narrative isn't done yet. Stay tuned for more surprising disclosures, and keep an eye on the growing drama.